Hi, this is Dr. Dreama with Design Your Dream Business here on the Wooditch Network. Now, I've been gone for a while and I want to explain why, because it ties in so well to this idea of designing your dream business. You see, we had come home, the dog was running around the apartment in the entrance. Without my noticing, she had run down into an area where there's storage, and I went down to get her. I didn't pay attention to where I was going, and the step was about 12 inches. So I stepped off, I lost my balance, saw that I was going to step on the dog, tried to recorrect, and ran straight into the wall. It was painful, and let me tell you, these buildings that are built in the 1700s, they have some pretty thick walls. So here's what happened. A concussion, a fractured wrist, and then my eyes both began to swell up and become black and blue. It was terrible, I have to be honest. I'm a trooper, I can take a lot, but this concussion just really knocked it right out of me. So for the next couple of weeks, I was busy in recovery. And then when it came to getting back into building my business, I had one of those slumps. Now, if you've tried to start a business, you know something about this slump. You know how we begin to second guess ourselves. Why am I doing this? This never stops. I feel like I'm always working. I wish I had a paycheck. So I kind of took myself down that trail of wishing and thinking and wondering and second guessing. And yes, I live in France, isn't this wonderful? But maybe I should go to the US and get a real job. A real job? I have a real job. So let's talk about self-doubt, because I know it's something that as an entrepreneur you deal with. You've done your research, you've got your great idea, you believe in what you're doing. But underneath that belief in what you're doing comes something that is sometimes really hard for us. Keeping a consistent and deeply rooted belief in ourselves. You see, it's easy to see doubt everywhere. Maybe you're looking at your bank balance and thinking, if I were doing better, but I'm not, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe you feel guilty because you're working all of the time. Maybe you feel like you should be spending more time with your family instead of working so hard on your passion. Maybe you're thinking you need to get a real job. I get it, because I go there too. And I think this is something that over the years I have seen with entrepreneurs over and over again. You see, being an entrepreneur is wonderful, but it has challenges. And they're challenges unlike other jobs that I've ever had. I've had lots of jobs and I don't remember ever sitting with the pangs of self-doubt. Now, sometimes an insecurity would come up, like if I had to do a presentation or if I had to ask for a promotion, things like that. Obviously, we're going to back away and sometimes second guess ourselves. That's a normal part of the process. But what I see and what I feel as an entrepreneur is every day there's an opportunity to figure out something more about myself. And some days that's really great. Some days, not so great. It feels much more difficult. And so what do you do about this? First, you work on your mindset. You see, we all have a mindset that comes from our upbringing. We have a mindset that says life is hard or life is easy. We have a mindset that says you'll never get anywhere without working really hard. You'll never get anywhere unless you know someone. Money is hard to come by. Money is hard to keep. I make money in the bill. So you can see in that particular mindset, we're talking about something that makes it sound like there's a limited quantity in the world. There's a limited amount that you're going to get and that I'm going to get. So if you're one of those people that's always looking for approval, you may have what we call a fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, we don't believe there's enough for everybody. We believe we only get our fair share. And sometimes we get scared that we don't even get that fair share. And so people with a fixed mindset tend to hold on to their money more tightly. They tend to be more negative. They tend to seek out approval. And they're really afraid of hiding their flaws. Now, how does that grow into a fixed mindset? Well, think about it. If I think there's only so much to go around, then I don't want you to know how flawed I am, because that might in some way impact how you think about me. And I need your approval. Now, conversely, maybe you grew up in a household where challenges were expected, where you were always taught, okay, so you got a B, let's talk about what happened. And then you could learn about how studying more would affect the outcome. And so you begin to put two and two together. You don't see a failure as a failure. It's not about your moral character. It's about, what can I learn from this? It's about being curious. It's about being vulnerable. And this is something that you can absolutely work on, because you see, we come into the world and we're raised by people around us who have certain ideas and outcomes, and we just sort of absorb those. And so like in my family, there was a lot of anxiety around money, around how we looked to other people. There was a lot of anxiety about not being too opinionated and not being too big for your britches. Wow, kind of a fixed mindset right there. Now, I didn't even know that I had a fixed mindset until one day I was probably complaining, because in my family, that's what you did. You didn't do anything about it. You just complained as a way of making yourself feel better. So I was probably complaining to a friend. But I'll never forget this. We were sitting out on the front porch. My kids were in bed. I was a single mom at this time. I was in graduate school. So was she. So we're sitting out on the porch enjoying the cool summer breeze, having a glass of wine, talking as we do, when my friend said to me, God, Dreama, I thought my life was hard. But you know, all I have to do is think about your life, and I feel so much better. You're my man with no legs. I'm your man with no legs? I'm like the person that you use to make yourself feel better about your tough times? This stunned me, absolutely stunned me. I asked her more about why she felt that way, and she sort of ticked off, oh, you know, you're a single mom, you've got these 2 little kids, you're in graduate school, you're working on the crisis hotline. I mean, all of those things were true, right? But what I started thinking about was, would it be easier if I weren't paying so much attention to how hard things were? What if I started focusing on the good things? Like the fact that I could help people in the crisis hotline. I could spend more time with my kids because I was in graduate school and could work my classes around their daycare schedule. So I started really working around this idea of becoming more of a positive person. I don't think I was ever a Debbie Downer or a Dreama Downer, but I knew that I wasn't like a positive person, and I wanted to be a positive person, because the last thing I ever wanted again was somebody saying that they used my life as an example of how bad life could be. Wasn't going to do that anymore. And so in graduate school, I also studied the idea of mindset, which evolved from social psychologist Carol Dweck. And she used it primarily around kids and how they learn. But it really expands to everything that we do. Because if you don't believe you can do something, you won't be able to. Your mind will find a way to make it not work. Let's say you've got a presentation at work, you don't want to do it, and you wake up on the day of your presentation, you have laryngitis. You get sick. We do these things to ourselves, and then it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. If I had been scared to death about doing this presentation, but I got up and did it anyway, I would be sending a signal to myself that I can learn how to do these things and I can become more confident. That's what I wanted for myself. I wanted to grow. Now, how does all this play out with banging myself into the wall? I'll tell you how. When we do something like that, it's very easy for old voices to reappear. It's like our defenses are down and they're like, oh, I see a chance, and they come rushing in. And so suddenly I'm telling myself I'm not very good. I'm telling myself that this is hard. I'm telling myself that maybe I can't do it. And you know what? It was self-fulfilling in those couple of weeks because I didn't do it. It felt hard. And because it felt hard, I didn't want to do it, and I didn't do it, and I would sit down and I would say, today you have to do it. You have to send an email out to your list. And 3 days would go by before I would be like, oh, I forgot that. And then 3 more days would go by before I would sit myself down to do it. So here's what I want to say to you around designing your dream business is work on your mindset. Because once you work on your mindset, even if you have a setback, you can get back up and you can do it. When we work on our mindset, everything changes. You have the ability to do that. Now, in my case, my external circumstances, they didn't change. All right? I was still in graduate school. I still had 2 little kids under the age of 4. I was still being a single mom the majority of the time. I was still working at the crisis hotline, doing a lot of overnights. But you know what? Once I embraced this idea that I could focus more on the positive and figure out what was available for me to learn about, everything changed. And again, nothing changed. It was just right here. You can do that too. So start working on that. And if you have questions, shoot me an email. You can find me at Dreama, D-R-E-M-A, at dreamadial.com. Dreama@dreamadial.com. Send me an email with your questions or your comments. I would love to hear from you. This is Dr. Dreama. Design your dream life and your dream business.